Okay, now what we're going to discuss is, again, some analysis of two projects. But in this case, we want to look at the net present value profiles of the project to try to understand what information we can get from there. In a previous example, we had talked about two projects, A and B, and we had looked at their incremental cash flows. And again, what we found from our analysis is that B has a higher net present value, but the internal rate of return is higher for project A. So that creates, again, some problems for us, if you will. So what we would like to do is let's plot the net present value profiles. So now we're starting this profile at the 10% increment, but then we're going to change by increments, and let's look at 2% rates and see what this tells us. And it really doesn't tell us all that much. We'd like to get a little bit more information if we could. Let's make this 12% and change the increments to 1%. And what you can see, again, let me give us a scroll down just a wee little bit more. What we can see here is the net present values for both projects. Project B is the red project and Project A is the blue project. Now, what we can see are a couple of things from this. If you remember from that other project, we found a crossover rate. The crossover rate where the net present value for both projects was the same was 17 and a little percent, 17 and a little bit more. And if you can see here, right around in here, right around the 17% range, is where these two projects cross over. So for discount rates that are less than 17%, on this side of 17%, then Project B is a better project. It has a lower internal rate of return, but it has a higher net present value. For discount rates or required returns or the cost of financing that's greater than 17%, if we're on this side of the crossover, then Project A has both a higher internal rate of return and a higher net present value. If you remember in our discussion about capital budgeting, net present value always gives the right answer. However, from time to time, internal rate of return and net present value conflict with each other. And with respect to these two, there is a difference. If they're mutually exclusive, they switch over. Sometimes A will be better, and it's sometimes conflicting. Sometimes Project B will be better. We have to understand, where is our discount rate? Well, we're over here at a 12% rate, so we know over here that A, or Project B, the red project, has a higher net present value than A does. So that would be the better project for us to analyze. We do have to take into consideration what's going to happen to interest rates in the future. How might that influence future reinvestment rate of cash flows? And that could ultimately change our analysis of these two projects. Again, remember, these two projects are very close together net present value wise. There's not that much of a distinction between the two. Internal rate of return, likewise, is very close. It's not that different. So in the end, we may want to just make some choices, maybe based on preference rather than necessarily straight by the numbers. So again, this is what's referred to as net present value profile analysis, understanding the relationships between these this illustration of changes in net present value as costs of financing changes. And we'll talk to you in another video.